Hi everyone, I'm Heather Matroka and today I'm going to teach you how to make velvet sequin mouse ears. We usually start with a bow, so you're going to take out your large piece of bow fabric and you just want to draw a piece of glue directly across the center. You're going to take the bottom and fold it up, and then you're going to do the same for the top. You're going to fold it over. Okay, and now we're going to fold our outside ends in. You want to fold them about halfway to your center piece as well. Now when you do this, you're going to want to kind of open this up so that you're only gluing that top piece down. You're going to kind of tuck the rest of it underneath. This is so when you fold your bow, you're not dealing with multiple layers of fabric. You're just dealing with 4 as opposed to 8, since you have the 2 pieces right here. So anyways, you're going to do it again. Draw your glue directly on that same line. And then just go ahead and tuck this layer in so that you're only gluing that top layer down. So you have one clean thin line right there. And now all that extra fabric is tucked into your bow, so it's not going to get in the way when we go to fold it in a second. So just make sure that your fabric is glued down in every spot. There aren't any gaps. And now we're ready to make our centerpiece. So for this piece, I like to use something underneath because sometimes it does end up sticking to my table. You just want to draw a line around the center of your piece of fabric with glue and fold that piece in. And then you're going to repeat that same step. Draw your line right around where you folded that previous piece down. All right, now you're all set. All right, so now we're just going to trim the little ends so that you have a solid straight line here when you wrap your bow. And now we're just going to fold our bow like an accordion. So you're going to fold up a third, back a third, and then down a third. Only 3 times you're going to fold. To wrap it, you're going to start and wrap around the front. Just hold everything in place with a pinch. And you want to wrap at least 1 time all the way around. And just glue that guy down. There we go. You just want to kind of fluff it out so you get your desired shape. And there you are. And now we are ready to start working on our ears. So you'll either have gotten 1 large piece of fabric or 2 smaller pieces of fabric. If you received 1 large piece, you're going to cut it in half and then in half again. If you received 2, you're just going to cut them each in half so that you have 4 pieces that are about the same size. All right, so we'll get those in just a second. You're going to take your base pieces. These are actually cardboard coasters. I've drawn the first line on for you. You're going to cut that line out, and then on your other 3 pieces, you're going to trace that same line. This is where your ears are going to sit on your headband. And once you finish that, you're going to cut those same lines. Don't worry if your lines aren't perfectly straight. All right, and now we're ready to start gluing our fabric. Cutting our fabric. You can either cut one piece at a time or you can cut multiples at a time. In this video, I'm going to do multiples. But I would suggest just doing one at a time so that you don't, if your fabric is cut uneven, you don't want to miss any pieces. So I would just cut one piece at a time exactly like I'm doing. You want to give yourself about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. You don't need a ton of extra fabric here. All of this fabric is stretchy, so you really just need a teeny, 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 tiny little spot to glue down. All right, so now we are going to start gluing our fabric onto our base piece. So you want to line it up again and take your glue gun and just draw a small line about 1/3 of the way around and start working your fabric around. You want to pull it nice and snug, but not so tight that it's bending your board. You just want a nice snug fit. And then you're going to go ahead and repeat that same process for your other 3 boards. All right, and now we are ready to start trimming. So for this, you want to kind of just cut this little part that's folded. You see here? Just snip that right off so it doesn't get in the way when we seal. You can also trim your little flap so it's a nice straight line. All right, so next we're going to start stuffing. I only like to stuff the front of my ears. The reason for that being is you don't want to add extra weight to your ears. They look beautiful flat, especially from the back. People won't even notice the difference. So just go ahead and seal those up. If you do want to add a little bit of stuffing, that is up to you, but I personally leave it off on my backs. Okay, doke. And now we're going to stuff just the fronts. You're not going to need a ton of stuffing here. You're really only going to just need a little bit. This is just to give your ears some dimension. You don't need to stuff them super full. All right, so we're going to take a little bit at a time and just start working it in there. Move it around with your finger. The reason we're going to do a little bit at a time instead of just stuffing a big chunk in is so that it evenly distributes and doesn't get all chunky and bumpy on your ears. So you get a nice smooth round ear. You don't want to add too much fabric. If you do, stuffing. If you do add too much, this board will start to bend, and you really want to keep this board as flat as possible so that the entire surface can grab onto your back. Go ahead and repeat for the other side. Again, just move it around so that it's not all bumpy. If you do overstuff it a little bit, it will start to bend. So just move that stuffing around, and you can also bend that board back. Don't worry about it bending. If it does kind of bend a little bit. And And then just go ahead and seal that side up as well. And now we're going to go ahead and glue the two sides together. You want to line them up nicely so that they're meeting at the same ends, so that when they're on the headband, they sit in the same spot. If they're not glued together right, they're going to be all wonky on your headband and they're not going to be very supportive. So you want to make sure you put your glue right where you glued your other piece on. That's just going to give you an extra piece of reinforcement since we are not using a traditional seam. Make sure you press these nicely together. You want to hold it nice and firm so that the glue melds there very nicely. All right, just make sure you give it a nice firm hold while it's gluing together. What you'll notice is you'll start to see a gap where that fake seam is if you don't push it in there, and you don't really want that gap. So once your ears are glued together, you're going to just cut your excess sequins. Be careful not to cut the fabric. You just want to cut these little extra sequins. This is so that your trim sits nicely. It doesn't get lumpy. Okay, now you're going to take your trim and you're going to glue it on. You want to draw a line of glue right in that line where your ears are together. You don't need a ton of glue here. Just use a little thin line and the tip of your glue gun to kind of move it around. You don't want any excess glue peeking out. So as you move it around, kind of pull it nice and firm so that you get a nice, smooth, round surface. And trim it off. And repeat for the other side. Remember, just a little bit of glue here. You don't want to have a ton of glue. Use that tip to spread it around. Now you got a nice, clean, beautiful, round ear. Trim off your little excess fabric. It does kind of fray a little bit if you don't trim the edges right there. All right, now we're ready to get these on the headband. So you're going to want to take a ruler or a tape measure of some sort and find the center of your headband. My headbands are 14 inches, so you're going to find exactly 7 inches and place a dot right at the center. And then you're also going to want to draw another dot 1 inch from on each side. So at the 6-inch point and the 8-inch point. This is where you're going to put your headbands and your bow on your head. Your ears and your bow on your headband. Okay, so we're just going to again use a little bit of glue. You want to spread it around so it hits that whole little surface that's going to grab onto your headband. And now you're going to find your first dot and press it on. Make sure you hold for a good 30 seconds. This is a very important step, is holding it here, because if it's not fused to the headband correctly, your ears will get floppy and won't stay on. So just make sure once you are securing it to the headband, hold it for a good 20-30 seconds while that glue dries. All right, now that you got your ears on, we're ready to add our bow. So you're just going to use a little dab of glue right where you glued your little lip on before, and glue it right onto the center of your headband. Give that a good 15-second hold as well. And then you just want to kind of fluff and adjust your bow so it looks how you want it, and you're all set. I hope you had fun creating ears with me today, and don't forget to tag me in your creations. Thank you.